What's up, Vault Dwellers? Today, we're talking about a time when science fiction meant rubber aliens, Cold War metaphors, and scientists yelling, "Get back, it's unstable." The 1950s were the golden age of sci-fi B-movies, when America was terrified of radiation, Martians, and women having opinions. These flicks had it all: space travel, sentient televisions, brain jars, and monsters that looked like they escaped from a papier-mâché nightmare. Whether they were warning us about the dangers of atomic power, or just trying to cash in on UFO hysteria, these films defined a generation of drive-in weirdness. So buckle up, grab your Geiger counter, and let's count down 13 of the most gloriously insane 1950s sci-fi B-movies to ever beam down into our living rooms. Oh, by the way, check out the special preview at the end of the video for a new type of show we're launching on the channel. All right, see you there.
Come on, Frank, I think we have time enough.
Time for what?
Donovan's dead, isn't he? Beyond all help?
So?
Science can use Donovan's brain. Hurry, or we'll never make it.
You're crazy. Count me out.
It's against the law to operate on a corpse. It could mean jail.
All right, Donovan's brain kicks off our list with a textbook example of 1950s sci-fi gone cerebral. Literally. The story centers on a scientist who keeps the brain of a dead millionaire alive in a tank, only for the said brain to start taking over his mind. Think of it as Frankenstein, but if the monster was just an angry cerebrum with stock tips. The film is slow burning but deliciously bonkers, especially as the possessed scientist starts acting like a Wall Street tycoon with a hangover.
How do you wish to have this cashed, Doctor?
Mostly thousands, some hundreds, and a few 50s.
Well, that will just about close the account.
I wouldn't know about that.
It's part horror, part economic thriller, and 100% a showcase for how seriously 1950s movies took the idea that the brain was basically an evil parasite just waiting to happen. There's something genuinely unsettling about watching a man get puppeteered by a blob in a fish tank. And the film's po-face delivery, it just adds to the charm. I mean, it's not flashy, but it's the kind of movie that sticks with you. You know, like a telepathic brain with a grudge.
Do you hear something?
Hear what? I don't hear.
Shh, listen.
Let's just say this together. Ray Harryhausen. That's it. That's the whole tweet. So Earth vs. the Flying Saucers features some of the best stop-motion spaceship destruction in B-movie history. And it's wrapped in a film that treats every alien encounter like a congressional hearing on national security. Scientists develop a communication system that gets hijacked by invaders from another planet. And soon, the Earth is under siege. But let's be honest, we're really not here for the plot. We're here to watch flying saucers blast landmarks like it's an intergalactic demolition derby. The special effects were absolutely groundbreaking for their time. And Harryhausen's animation, I mean, it gives this one a sense of scale most B-movies just only dreamed of. Sure, the acting is wooden, and the script sounds like it was written by someone with an axe to grind against telescopes. But it's an essential artifact of Cold War era space paranoia. Plus, who doesn't love watching the Capitol get wrecked by a glorified salad bowl?
I was on a table. Next thing I knew, they were coming at me. Strange people. Their eyes.
This movie's a fever dream in a lab coat. Peter Graves plays a scientist who survives a plane crash, only to return with giant gaps in his memory and a newfound obsession with glowing charts. It turns out he was abducted by aliens with ping-pong ball eyes and a master plan involving insects. Really, it just sounds like a typical Friday night here at the Vault. Killers from space? It's less of a movie and more of a warning label for amateur hypnosis. The aliens are laughable, the pacing is a crawl, and the dramatic stakes hinge on a guy trying to remember stuff very intensely. But what makes it special, it's how earnest it is. Everyone in this movie is acting like they're doing 12 Angry Men in space. It's a try-hard masterpiece with aliens that look like they shop at the Walmart Halloween clearance aisle. So this movie is kind of a mood piece. So it takes place in a remote Scottish outpost where a mysterious visitor from another planet arrives, looking like a Teletubby's sinister uncle. The alien, he doesn't really say much, but the film, it's all about atmosphere, fog, shadows, and tension so thick you could cut it with a slide rule. You know, despite the tiny budget and theatrical pacing, the man from Planet X pulls off an impressive feat. It makes you feel genuinely uneasy. There's this weird empathy to the alien, even as it starts zapping locals into submission. It's part noir, part sci-fi, and all metaphor for the Cold War outsider. Sure, I mean, the alien looks like a papier-mâché balloon in a scuba suit, but the earnestness, it just sells it. So if you want a moody existential dread serve their vintage space panic, this one delivers.
Look, they're multiplying. They're forming rings of their own.
Adding new structure to the old. Doubling their size, growing larger.
You know, this might be the only B-movie where the real monster, it's a science lecture. The magnetic monster is about a radioactive isotope that eats energy and just grows exponentially. You don't actually see the monster because it's a concept, which is kind of brilliant, but also like watching your uncle try to explain nuclear fission with sock puppets. It's a pseudo-documentary with a narrator who sounds like he's reading from a Fallout shelter manual.
Our equipment covers the range of instruments, from the simple test tube to the complex 50,000-volt electron microscope.
The tension comes from men in suits looking very worried in front of chalkboards. But for all its dryness, it is a compelling attempt to deal with the atomic age fears in a pretty grounded way. It's basically Chernobyl if you replace the realism with mid-century dad energy. A thinking man's monster movie, if that man is very into oscilloscopes.
Chris, look!
Six. Linda, we've done it.
Dear Lord, don't make us sorry.
This movie dares to ask the question, what if Martians had opinions about Earth's politics and religion? So in the red planet Mars, a group of scientists receive transmissions from Mars that lead to global religious awakenings, economic collapse, and international paranoia. Really, it just kind of sounds like my newsfeed when I doom scroll my phone right now. It's a Cold War sermon disguised as a sci-fi flick, dripping with propaganda and wild narrative swings. You know, 1 minute we're decoding cosmic messages, and the next we're watching world leaders panic like someone just pulled the fire alarm at the United Nations. It's heavy-handed for sure, but also endlessly fascinating in its attempt to merge space travel with spiritual destiny. The twist ending? Just pure Cold War weirdness. This one's less about little green men and more about red scares and Sunday sermons. Which, I mean, let's be honest, that's just way more terrifying.
Yeti! No!
Alright, this one might be a stretch, but let's say this one's technically science fiction because the creature, it ends up in a lab. Kind of. A scientific expedition captures a Yeti in the Himalayas, hauls it back to Los Angeles, and surprise, It escapes and goes on a rampage. You know, it's just like King Kong with just lower altitude and an even lower budget. The Yeti suit is about as convincing as a shag rug with arms, and the film's pacing makes molasses look like Olympic sprinters. But it's a fascinating glimpse at how 1950s filmmakers turned real-world myths into half-baked monster flicks with a lecture or two about evolution thrown in. I mean, it's not great, it's not scary, but it sure tries like hell to be both.
It's just you and me. And we're going to die, too.
No, Paul, keep away from me. I'm trying to help you.
Ah yes, radiation. It's the favorite flavor of the monsters in the 1950s. Tarantula gives us a scientist whose experiments accidentally unleash a house-sized spider on the American Southwest. I mean, this movie's got everything. Mad science, skeptical sheriffs, and a very young Clint Eastwood flying a jet. The special effects, they're surprisingly solid, with the titular tarantula just looking extra creepy against the miniatures. The movie's a perfect example of the atomic horror genre, where every scientific breakthrough seems to create a creature just large enough to crush a Buick. And let's be honest, you've never really lived until you've seen a spider the size of a barn just chasing people through the desert.
3, 2, 1, fire!
Start blast-off procedure, Captain.
Yes, Colonel. Mexico to blockhouse. Request permission to start pumps.
Welcome to the future, according to 1953. Project Moonbase was a failed TV pilot turned feature film about a U.S. military base on the moon. It features a female commander, a saboteur disguised as a scientist, and dialogue that sounds like it was AI generated by a robot who read one article about space travel. It's low on action and high on exposition.
Are you all right, Colonel? No space sickness, I hope.
Of course not.
But there's a charm in how hard it tries to be forward-thinking while clinging to the gender norms of the 1950s. The woman's in charge, but don't worry, she'll still need a husband by the end. It's stiff and awkward, and utterly fascinating in its attempt to predict the future while still being stuck in the past.
Master,
Yes?
I'm curious to know why you always sleep in your evening clothes.
Really?
Yes, Master.
I was buried in them.
This movie is also known as My Son, the Vampire, and this is a horror sci-fi hybrid that features Bela Lugosi playing a mad scientist using robots to take over the world. And there's a musical number.
Some people have a fit when the rent comes due. Some people do a flip.
There's some slapstick, and there's Bela hamming it up like rent was due yesterday. So this is like a half comedy, half sci-fi, and just completely out of its mind. Lugosi gives it his all, surrounded by a script that feels like it was rewritten on a cocktail napkin. But if you ever wanted to see Dracula lead a robot revolution while wisecracking, this is your movie. Before Black Mirror, there was the Twonky. A man receives a strange television set that turns out to be sentient and authoritarian. So it does his taxes, forbids alcohol, and zaps anyone who tries to unplug it. It's basically Alexa if she got tenure and a taser. It's equal parts comedy and cautionary tale. The Twonky, it's a satirical look at technology just gone wild. It's goofy, bizarre, and weirdly prophetic. You're gonna laugh and cringe, and you might start side-eyeing your smart television. Another Ray Harryhausen gem. This one features a creature brought back from Venus that escapes in Rome and just starts smashing landmarks. The Ymir is one of Harryhausen's most iconic creations, and it's sympathetic, terrifying, and just beautifully animated. It's the rare monster movie where you actually feel bad for the creature. I mean, it didn't ask to be poked and prodded and paraded around by the US military. And when it starts fighting an elephant in the middle of Rome, this is peak cinema.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
For our number one spot, we've got the granddaddy of serious space films. Destination Moon set the tone for every lunar adventure that followed. This was funded by George Pal and designed to be scientifically accurate. It features no aliens and no monsters, just humans, science, and the dream of reaching the stars. It's slow and talky by today's standards, but it's very historic. It taught audiences that space travel, it wasn't just fantasy, it was coming. And it gave 1950s sci-fi a credibility boost that helped launch the genre into the stratosphere. You know, these movies, they didn't just imagine the future. They gave it rubber suits, dramatic narrators, and a whole lot of blinking lights. They perfectly captured the paranoia, hope, and wild imagination of a decade living under the shadow of the atomic bomb and the light of the moon. But before you blast off, I want you to check out this preview of a new type of show on this channel. It's called 13 Insane B-Movies Trivia Challenge. Yeah, I know the title could use some work, but it's a fun way to test your B-movie knowledge and flex your cerebral domination. And don't forget, keep it weird, folks. All right, question number 1 is, in Attack of the Crab Monsters, which came out in 1957, what happens to people who are killed by the monsters? Is it A, they become zombies controlled by the crabs? B, their brains are absorbed by the crabs? Or C, they dissolve into puddles of goo? All right, the correct answer was B. The brains are absorbed by the crabs. And that's right, the crabs literally absorb human brains to gain their knowledge. Roger Corman knew his audience. If you can't make a monster look scary, make it sound horrifyingly gross.